It is in the nighttime. I just woke up in between. I was sleeping. I got up. I was just browsing around and I was seeing articles from TalkSport, etc., where different people were talking about Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul and why Floyd couldn't stop Logan Paul. And people were saying it was the size difference, that Logan was too big for him, so it would be harder for him to knock him out. I remember Antonio Tarver actually predicting the fight and talking about how Logan was too big. It'll be kind of hard to chop down such a big guy. But I'm going to tell you this: Floyd was walking down Logan Paul. After round one, he was walking him down for the rest of the fight. So that's not the reason. The reason why Floyd was unable to knock out Logan Paul is a very simple reason. Logan Paul knew how to clinch up. He knew how to stop the action. He knew how to smother Floyd. That is the difference. Yes, he's a much bigger guy, but the technique of clinching, he knew how to clinch up. And I believe that is why Logan Paul, who was in the fight, yes, he was trying at first to go at Floyd wildly. Um, that's one of the major reasons. The other reason I would give is a bit of age. I think Floyd's a little bit, he definitely is older because Floyd would get to the inside, he would slide to the inside, and instead of throwing, a two punch combination on the inside, he would instead stay in position and have to sort of jostle with Logan to get position on the inside because he was basically infighting Logan Paul. Of course, Logan being bigger and possibly stronger than him in terms of grappling, was able to um, sort of secure a better position on the inside than he did. So it might have been a little bit harder for Floyd to actually land punches on Logan than it appeared. But definitely Floyd got some inside work on Logan. And then he really was knocking him about the ring in the fourth and fifth round. He was just like pummeling him with right hands and knocking him about the ring. It kind of reminded us of Conor McGregor fight. But Logan was able to, unlike Conor McGregor, who didn't know how to clinch properly, Logan knew how to clinch pretty good. And so because of that, Logan was able to secure Floyd and smother him. So that's why Logan was able to make it to the eighth round. Floyd wanted to knock him out, and Floyd is not he's not as accurate as he used to be. And again, that's because he's not been in boxing for a little while. But it was a nice little scrap up. Now, to be honest with you, there was never going to be a winner in this fight in terms of like judges and stuff. It was just an exhibition. It was sold as a very competitive fight, and both guys came in with somewhat mean intentions. But at the end of the day, um, in retrospect, even if you did get the knockout, even if he did knock out Logan Paul, it still wouldn't have gone down as a win. He just had the satisfaction of knocking him out or putting him on his butt. But Logan came in with a great game plan. I gotta admit that. And I can't knock Logan Paul for clinching. You can't knock him. That's a brilliant game plan. And for a guy who hasn't had that many pro fights to face that caliber of fighter and to be able to tie them up says quite a lot. I mean, that's he couldn't stop Floyd from walking him down. He couldn't keep Floyd at bay. Floyd was cutting the distance. But what he could do was clinch up Floyd, and he really knew how to do that. And that's kudos to Logan. I mean, if it was a actual fight, you'd have lost it, but he would have kept his integrity and been able to have made it to the final bell. So that's a win for Logan Paul, no doubt about it. And that skill set he has where he can clinch is going to come in pretty handy later on. And so, how do you deal with a big fighter like that who can clinch you? How do you make space to do that? Well, okay. So, it takes a little bit more energy to do that. Um, Floyd's timing was a little bit off, as we can see. He was missing some punches. Logan was dipping. So, credit to Logan again on that. I'm kind of amazed Logan has really shown different things in his game, which is really really good. So trained his ass off, and it really worked. But with a fighter like that, here's the you got two major problems, right? You're trying to get past reach, okay, the long reach of the fighter, the jab that they have, and the other thing you're trying to do, which Floyd was successful at doing, that was once you get on the inside, you got to keep them from wrapping you up, and Logan knows how to wrap you up. So the key here, what Floyd should have been doing, but it's not easy to do, especially against a fighter like Logan, is he should be coming in. Once he slipped Logan, get on the inside, he needed to throw a punch. And then if Logan clinched him up, that's not a problem because he already landed his punch in the inside. So body punches, he should have come in with more body punches. And he started to pick up the crescendo somewhere around round 6 or 7, but that was a little too late in the fight when he was really starting to chop up body shots and then go to headshots. Logan was still strong enough to clinch him up. And Logan was doing a pretty good job with his jab, but even with that jab, and he has a really nice jab. Logan has a really nice jab. But even with that jab, like I told you, guys like Floyd and Pacquiao and Canelo, jabs don't deter them. They're going to get to the inside. If they want to get to the inside on you, they're going to get to the inside on you. And if you look at Floyd's footwork, what we call precise footwork, again, we see just like what Canelo does, he's inching in on you. He's not coming directly in. He's not trying to rush in. He's inching in on you and feinting you and inching in on you and feinting. And the thing with Canelo, Floyd, even to a certain degree, Keith Thurman, etc., is they do what was called the yin yang. So if you're going backwards, I'm coming forwards. If you go forwards, I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to respect distance. I understand the range I need to be at with you. And so that was another thing that I thought was very telling and brilliant, again, by Floyd. You got to understand, Floyd was outweighed on fight night, I believe. If Floyd came in about 155, maybe even less, I'm thinking that Logan Paul came in either 190 something or 200 pounds. Okay. So we're talking about Logan Paul that outweighed Floyd by, say, anywhere between 35 to 45 pounds, maybe even more. All right. Maybe even 50 pounds. The guy was way heavier than Floyd, so he could take a punch better. Not to say that Floyd's body shots were not affecting Logan. They were. He just couldn't get enough of them in to really fully affect him. When Floyd started turning on the gas, which, I mean, he really started putting the pedal to the metal somewhere around round 6, 7. It was a little too late in the fight. If the fight went on longer, he probably would have done like what he did with Conor McGregor and got him out of there somewhere in the 9th, the beginning of the 10th. You'd have got him out of there. So Floyd was he was walking down Logan, but he wasn't getting Logan's timing properly, so he was missing a lot of shots. And the other thing about it was Logan did just enough and well enough that even though he was gassed out at a certain point, by round 4 he was gassed out. Logan was gassed out. He was still throwing a decent jab, but his thing was to clinch and push Floyd to the ropes, which was a brilliant strategy that he and his coach came up with, and that's how they made it through 8 rounds. He wasn't necessarily trying to hurt Floyd. The early parts of the fight, he was trying to hurt Floyd. The later parts of the fight, he was just trying to survive. And kudos to him. He actually survived the fight. And that's going to be a great learning experience for him. Now, he has to understand, though, when he's fighting guys his size, around his size and weight, he's not going to have that kind of success he had there. Those guys will be strong enough to sometimes muscle out of the clinch and really put a hurting on him. So he has to be careful with that. But I have to say, it's come a long ways from the fight he had with KSI. He's improved a lot as a fighter, and he's smart. He's not stupid. And so I think, he has a promising future in boxing. I think a couple, as we say, lower tier fighters to test out different things that he can do in the sport would be really great. He's got a hell of an experienced guy that he just faced in the ring. And that is going to serve him tremendously in his career. He should take the full advantage of everything that Floyd did and study him and really train and watch the things that Floyd does to walk down guys and learn how to do those things. Because he's a grappler, because he's a guy that can clinch very well, he should really learn to do inside fighting and very well because his skills are tying up a guy and kind of keeping them from really landing punches and even taking some of that skill that he has in tying up people and using that as an offensive weapon, meaning instead of coming in, sliding in on a clinch, slide in and throw a body shot, to the liver or whatever, and then clinch. I mean, he could really go far in about five years, 6 years if he sticks with it. So I don't know but his chin is not that great because Floyd was rocking him. He was rocking him in the sixth and the seventh. He was really rocking him, knocking him about the ring, but he just ran out of time to knock him out. But I gotta give Logan a lot of credit for making the distance. I mean, that's a moral booster. It's huge for him. Um, Floyd retiring from boxing is cool as well. I think Floyd should continue to do exhibitions as long as he can. I don't think anybody is going to knock him out. Floyd's defensively very, very sound. We saw that Logan hardly hit Floyd with anything whatsoever. Floyd was the guy walking down Logan and doing all the offensive work. And again, kudos to Floyd. I mean, this is a 44-year-old guy who's pretty much done with boxing. Like he's not, but even so, he was able to perform, and both guys were going at each other. They really were going at each other. And this is a little guy, 155 pounds. He's not a big dude, you know what I mean? And he's walking down a much, much bigger guy who is smart enough to know that he has grappling skills and he makes use of it. And I gotta give Logan, his kudos. And Logan even tried to twist Floyd's arm at a certain point in the fight very subtly, and you see Floyd push Logan's head all the way back, and it's because once again Logan had twisted Floyd's arm. Logan knows how to grapple really well and clinch, you could tell. So, and that's good for Logan, good on his part. And for Floyd holding his own against a guy who's so young, especially in the clinches, you could tell Logan is the bigger guy because he was pushing Floyd back to the ropes, walking him back to the ropes once he clinched him up. And that again is very clever. If you're a bigger guy, you make the smaller guy work, especially if the smaller guy is an older guy. You make him work, man. You make him work with everything. So once you get him in a clinch, you tie him up. If he's trying to wrestle to come out of the clinch, you see Floyd was trying to fight him to get out of the clinch so he could chop him up. And you could tell Logan's using that skill set to impose his size and strength on Floyd and walk him around the ring, which is very clever. And so the grappling will definitely help Logan in fights. Once he doesn't get penalized for excessive clinching, he has to be careful with that. But it's a strategy, it's a trick. You have to know these strategies. And once again, this just proves that clinching, for anybody who doesn't know, Chris Algieri emphasized it recently. Clinching is not illegal. Excessive clinching is illegal. When you're using, especially if you're using the same technique over and over, that is illegal. But if you clinch a guy and you turn him, people train for that. You have to know that. If you don't know how to lock up, if you don't know how to clinch in boxing, you can get your ass knocked out. Okay, those people who don't want to clinch and they don't want to lock up at some point and stop the action intentionally, you're stupid. Because it's better you get penalized the point than you get knocked the hell out. Okay, because you get knocked out, the likelihood is you might get knocked out again in your next fight because your mind keeps a registry of those things. So it's not in your best interest. Once you feel like you're either hurt or you you're using it as a preventative measure by sliding into the inside of a guy, you're still working with your free hand when the other guy locks you up because you can induce a guy to lock you up. So that's another way of doing it. So you don't have to lock up a guy. You can make another guy lock you up. Once you slide to the inside and you slide your hand under a guy's hand, generally the guy would clamp down on your hand to keep you from moving that free hand, and you can use the other hand to work. So that's why I say there's a difference between locking up and tying up. Clinching is where you literally stop any kind of activity in terms of hand movement from your opponent. That's locking up, gripping a guy. Tying up is where you're not locking up the hands completely. You might just, for just a split second, lock the guy's hand, and then the guy can't get his hand through your hand, your elbow, and your torso because you even though you're not locking him up, he can't get his glove through it. You can't pull back his glove and get it through. So even though you're not locking him up, you're still tied him up. That is, he's tied up. He's not able to move his hands freely as he would like, and the timing and rhythm is thrown off. So you can do that kind of just momentarily, keep the hand in there, and then you let the hand free. So those are the little tricks of the trade, and that's tying up. Tying up is what infighting is all about. Locking up and tying up, where you sometimes your opponent or you lock down one hand. You're not supposed to clinch and hit. Okay, so if you're the guy doing the clinching, you're not supposed to hit the other guy. But if the guy is locked down one of your hands and another hand is free, you're free to hit the other guy. Now they're generally arm punches, but still they can work if you can get some kind of leverage off of them. They can work on the inside. But in fighting, it's all about how you torque your body, how you turn, how you pivot your body on the inside. The sharp pivots and the short, sharp pivots. So if you know how to throw short punches, infighting is your thing. You know, sometimes you throw a long looping punch just to get it out of the eyesight or range, the eye, your view of your opponent. So but um, Logan's got a long ways to go. But if he can just learn to infight on top of uh his jab that he has, the basics that he has, he can go a pretty long way. I mean, especially in the cruiserweight division, he might be able to, as a cruiser, make it to possibly make it to championship level. I mean, this is too early in the game to really say, but you never know. The guy could, in 5 years' time, be a cruiserweight champion or not a heavyweight champion. He's never going to have that, but he'd definitely be a cruiserweight champion. I could see that happening. And again, very impressive on Floyd's end, being so small. He had no advantages whatsoever. He had no reach advantage. He had no height advantage. He had no weight advantage. He had no strength advantage. And this little guy was walking down a much bigger guy. So that's very impressive again at 44. Very impressive. It shows that his reflexes are still there. His movement's still there. Um, he knows how to walk a guy down. So a lot of people, again, and that's what I thought made the fight exciting. Even though we all anticipated that Floyd would knock this guy out and beat the crap out of him, he still beat him up a little bit, but not the way we thought it would have happened. And he did walk him down. He was the bully in the fight. Their game plan was to stay on the back foot and stick and move, and that was their game plan. Really was. Um, and clinch in the close, and it definitely worked in the favor of not getting Logan Paul knocked out. I mean, he didn't get knocked out, and Floyd was looking for the KO. He was looking to knock his ass out. Um, but once again, it's not that easy to knock a guy out, especially if you've not been you've not been in boxing for a very long time. You've just been in the circuit. I would have, everybody would have loved if Floyd had knocked out Logan Paul. Didn't happen, right? But it's not that Logan was too big. That's not the reason. A chin is a chin. You check a guy on his chin, he's gonna be in trouble. And Floyd was checking him on his chin. Every now and then he got a punch to Logan's head. He knocked him back. He knocked Logan back. Logan was staggering backwards. But then he would throw a couple other punches, and Logan would dip under them, and he would miss. Yeah, it's just what it is. But no, Floyd punch is pretty good. He's pretty sharp, and he could knock out a big guy like that. It's just that, as I said before, if you got a guy with unique skill sets, he's able to clinch. Uh, and when he's fatigued, he knows what to do when he's fatigued. And Logan knew what to do when he was fatigued, which was really credit to Logan. I mean, if you've been a grappler, if you've been a wrestler, and you have that advantage where you can resort to your grappling and wrestling, by all means do so. I mean, I can't fault Logan for doing that. That was excellent. So those people trying to clown on Floyd and talk all kinds of bullshit. Here's what I suggest to these people who are Monday morning quarterback. All right, get in the ring with Logan Paul and fight him. Otherwise, shut your fucking mouth up. A lot of you people out there are too negative about things. Okay, now I didn't pay to watch the fight. I'm just telling you, I didn't think that was worth the while for me. But just seeing people on here try to throw shit at Floyd because he didn't knock out Logan, it just makes no fucking sense to me. Okay, I'm sorry about the f bombs, but some of y'all just need to grow up and have a life. Okay, some of y'all just stupid as fuck. Okay, y'all are just too negative on here, and it just annoys me. Okay, so he did knock out Logan Paul. Okay, he did knock him out. So what? The guy knew how to grapple. The guy knew how to stick and move a bit. And, he did just enough to make sure he made it to the finish line. What is wrong with that? That's not a bad thing. Now, everybody wanted to see Floyd knock him out, including myself. It didn't happen. So what? Okay? So what? That happens in boxing. Okay, you can't always get somebody. You can't always knock out everybody you face. That's what we wanted. Didn't happen. Okay, and that's kudos to Logan. He prepared for the situation that he had to face to make sure he had a defense to keep him from getting knocked out. And y'all can say what you want to say. Defense wins you fights. Defense keeps you from getting stopped. That's why I said nobody's knocking out Canelo. Oh God, no. Logan was never knocking out Floyd. Okay? Because these guys got defense. And Logan and his trainer, who was very smart, worked on his defense. What he did well, he wanted him to implement that in the fight. And what he knew how to do very well was lock up a guy. You got to give him credit for that. There's no way if you're getting locked up by a guy continuously, he's locking you up. You can't move. You can't throw your hands like you want to. It's very difficult to knock a guy like that out. Evander Holyfield versus Mike Tyson. Um, and I can go on and on and on. So I don't understand why some of these people, if you guys got issues with Floyd, that's a totally different story. All right. You will know. Again, nope. I did not pay to see that fight. And I did not watch it live. Why am I watching it live? If I'm going to watch it live, then I pay to see it. Okay. And I was not interested enough in a fight like that. I want y'all to realize again that I am not one of those people who just supports people blindly. Okay. I like to see competitive fights. Like, for example, the competitive fight between Luis Arias and Jarrett Hurd. Great fight. And Luis Arias came up tops on that fight and had everything. Punches landing, some defense, lots of activity. What's the fight of the night? Okay. The point, anyway, is this. Y'all who talking and running your mouth and bumping your gums, if y'all were put in that situation in that ring, oh yeah, I would have gotten him out of there. Nope, not even Pacquiao would have gotten him out of there. I'm telling you, Logan was doing a clever thing. And it's hard to get a guy out when he's clinching you and locking you up. It's very hard. Pacquiao, especially the way how Logan was fighting, it would be very hard for Pacquiao even to knock him out. Would Pacquiao dominate and win and probably do more damage to Logan Paul? Absolutely. But knock him out? Not that easy. All right, not that easy. But I could see Pacquiao landing a really nice hard body shot and Logan locking him up again. Because Logan knows how to clinch. You guys need to understand certain things in boxing. Certain things in boxing, if you know how to do them and do them well, that literally, especially defensive things, really works in your favor. really works in your favor. And so, Adrian Broner was talking about how he would knock out Logan Paul, but you got to get to use your power. You got to use your power on him. That means once you close the distance on him, if you can close the distance on him, once you close the distance on him, you have to use your power. But once Logan sees that you're a certain distance from him and you're closing it, he's going to slide in and lock you up, and he knows how to lock you up. So your hands are not free enough to do anything. And that's the problem. These smaller guys don't realize. He's got a unique skill set there that's going to serve him very well. And he's even dipping and moving under punches pretty well as well. So we'll see where he's going. If Logan keeps his defense on point, he's going to have a very long, illustrious career. And he's improved from what we last saw of him with KSI. So we'll see. I mean, he went the distance with Floyd. He went the distance with KSI as well, and he even hurt KSI. But he landed, one too many punches on KSI. Didn't land nothing on Floyd really that really mattered. He got a jab or two in, but that was early. Um, but he made Floyd miss. And defense is the key. You got to make a guy who is deadly, but also defensively sound. You got to make him miss. And of course, if Floyd was a little younger, I believe he'd have got him out of there because, again, the combinations that Floyd would usually throw on the inside, he throws like 2 or 3 or even 1 punch on the inside. And Floyd was only able to get like 1 punch in there. And by the time he slid to the inside and Logan secured 1 arm, he couldn't really get the position he wanted to throw another punch. So they were kind of locked up in there wrestling instead of, and Floyd trying to get his hands free at times to try and land a punch. And as you can see, what I liked about Floyd was, whereas Logan was tiring, Floyd was fresh from round 1 all the way up to round 8, which was really impressive as well for an old guy like that, who hadn't really been training that much. So there's a lot of things I took from that fight. It wasn't, again, I don't really care about Floyd versus Logan Paul. It's more of a benefit to Logan Paul than it is to Floyd in the sense of knowledge. So Logan's got a lot of knowledge. He's got to figure out now what to do with that so that he doesn't end up being an Andre Berto, for example, who got, beat the crap out of by Sean Porter after facing Floyd Mayweather, or like a Ricky Hatton who was just wrecked for the rest of his life and didn't know what to do. Logan made it to the finish line. What he has to think about is, how did I work my defense so Floyd missed shots at me? How did I utilize my defense to smother Floyd? He understands certain fundamental things, which he was able to do against a very excellent smaller guy than him. And so now he has to use that when he's facing guys at his weight class. He needs to use those skills he's just learned to use. And also he should be able to add skills to his repertoire, but he has to be careful. He has to build 1 skill at a time. He can't do 2, 3, 4, but be cognizant of 2, 3, 4, maybe even try out, explore 2, 3, 4, but stay focused on building your skill set on what you have. And in about 5 years' time, we'll see how far he has progressed, especially without an amateur background. It's really difficult, but you never know. Sergio Martinez did it. Bernard Hopkins didn't have a big amateur pedigree. He mostly got his amateur pedigree from when he was in prison. So who's to know? Who's to say? I mean, the thing about it is, of course, these guys are going to take calculated moves using their YouTube background and the YouTube base that they carry to translate that into fights. So they're looking for somebody interesting to fight. But these guys are coming from a YouTube background and they're really applying themselves to boxing. So it's going to be very interesting to see how far their careers go because they're really taking it seriously. Whereas KSI seems as though he's just kind of lulling back on the YouTube scene. And he's not stepping out there really trying to get, I know he's doing music and other things, but he's not really trying to step out there and really try to, build a boxing career of sorts. And again, Logan's going to have a very limited career. What I mean by that is I don't expect him to become I don't even know if he'll ever become a champion, a world champion. He might, especially at cruiserweight. He might. But what I do expect from him is that experience he's gotten, which is invaluable. And Logan likes to do all kinds of crazy things in his life and test himself in many different crazy ways. I think that this is an experience of a lifetime. He said it's the high point of his career, and absolutely, I agree. And I mean, to go 8 rounds with such a great fighter is priceless. I mean, that's something people dream of. Okay, professional boxers dream of facing Floyd, and he had that opportunity. So, I mean, it was just an exhibition, but still, nonetheless, that's tremendous. So, I mean, you gotta give him props for that. As to Floyd, well, Floyd, Floyd's Floyd. So, um, the thing with Floyd is, and I guess sometimes he doesn't live up to expectations people have, but the thing with Floyd is he's got this reputation of being so good that even some ridiculous matchups that we see, we're like, oh no, man, Floyd can handle that. He's going to knock that guy out, or he's going to do this to this guy. And truth be told, it's just like we put super high expectations on this guy, you know, and like we have to put him in perspective. A lot of people either are extremely okay. This is how I look at him. Some people see Floyd as the devil, and some people see Floyd as a god. It's like these extremes, right? So it's like he could do no wrong, and then some other people think, oh, he's just the worst thing ever, right? And it's sad because he's just a human being. He's just a normal, ordinary guy with a lot of flaws. All of us have flaws. And we look at him as some superhero, some people, and some people look at him as this villain. He's neither. Just a human being, So he builds tremendous hype for his fights, and he gets a lot of people interested and excited to watch those things. And then you have people who apologize for him when he doesn't perform to the liking of the general masses. And then you have the people um, who go in on him and they really attack him. Because remember, this guy, when he does events, they're huge events. They're tremendous events. They're huge money making events. And as a result of that, he's like in the spotlight for a minute in a big way. And it rubs some people the wrong way. Some people get jealous and really angry that he has these big events and they're not a part of it, you know. And then and you see that in the industry. The industry tries to hit back at him, certain people in the industry especially. Whereas, you know, you have other people who try to apologize for him. So you see the apologists come out and it's like, so what? He can't make money, and so you see that dichotomy there, and I'm like, look, the guy's he knows how to sell a fight and make money off a fight, even an exhibition fight. He's making money off of exhibitions, in a big way. People actually come out to see him, and it's because of his reputation. It's because of his record, okay, that people come out to see him fight. Because nobody ain't gonna come out to see an average or a mediocre person fight, right? You know, the guy is excellent at what he does. He's projected this excellence, and that's why it was such a big thing. Dude's fighting a YouTuber for crying out loud. A YouTuber. He might as well have fought a cab driver, right? Everybody came out to see it. And what was amazing, which we really need to give Paul props for, and his trainer, is that the YouTuber managed to make it to the end of the fight. And to me, that's a win-win. That's a win-win. You fought Floyd, You looked good. You could say what you want. You could talk your smack, and you made a ton load of money. Come on, man. Come on now. That's a win-win. That's a win-win. And so um I don't really see that as a bad thing. I do say though that um, if you're somebody who likes competitive fights or fights that look competitive on paper, that ain't your thing. If you're not interested in, and the irony of the situation, the irony of the situation, if I were to be honest, perfectly honest with everybody, is people came out to see Sugar Ray Robinson knock guys out. They didn't care if the guy was a tomato can. Sugar Ray Robinson, back in the 1950s, coming to the end of his career, he was 40 something, I think about Floyd's age. Uh, he wasn't fighting no world beaters anymore. He was fighting guys that literally came off the street and had their first fight with him. He fought three debutantes in a row um, back in the 1950s when he was in his 40s, of course. He wasn't fighting any more championship fights and stuff. And these weren't exhibition fights, mind you. These were professional fights. But people came to see him knock these guys out. So to me, it's a little bit hypocritical. Of course, it was different times, but to me, it's a bit hypocritical when people say, "Oh, Floyd, he's facing Logan Paul. Why are you gonna see that? Why are people?" I'm gonna tell you why you're gonna see that. And Coach Anthony would absolutely agree with this. It's history. It's history in the making, and it's a historic guy. People came to see Floyd do his thing. That's why they came. Some people came also because they're supporters of Logan Paul, no doubt about that. But people came to see Floyd do his thing. And I'll be honest with you, you know, if you came to see that, more power to you. If you're a Floyd fan and you wanted to support him that way, more power to you. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how it used to be. It used to be people supported Muhammad Ali because they liked him. It used to be people supported Sugar Ray Leonard because they liked him. It didn't matter if it was exhibition. It didn't matter who he was facing. All right? Sugar Ray Leonard fought journalists, for crying out loud. And I think he stepped on the axe and he knocked out a journalist either. Sugar Ray Leonard fought different people in exhibitions. I don't get why people are so angry and so mad at Floyd for doing an exhibition, other than it's so huge and it's such a big event that makes so much money that people are jealous of him because he talks about his money so much and that he's doing so well with his life that they have to find something to hate on. And for those, and why, obviously, why did he sell out? He sold out because, one, a lot of people like him, and a lot of people in different communities like him. And two, he sold out because Logan Paul brings us a following behind him. And now, what Floyd has been able to do with Logan is he's able to help Logan's career in a major way. This is going to be a major boost for Logan Paul. So even though Logan Paul lost to KSI, he was able to fight to the end with Floyd, which is huge. All right. We were all hoping that Floyd would stop him. The result would have been the same. It's an exhibition, so it didn't really matter. But we were hoping that Floyd would stop him. I thought he was going to stop him. But at the end of the day, Logan, to his credit, last to the end, which is credit to him on that. Okay, and so he's gotten, he gets a boost off of that. He and his brother, and kudos to them. I mean, they work hard, so we'll see how their boxing careers go. But with respect to this individual that we call Floyd Mayweather, which is so controversial. And a thing I try to get people to understand, and I believe people's emotions and tempers will calm down over time because more and more people are recognizing how good this guy was and how good this guy is, and it's so sad because you were watching the thing in real time and you never really grasped how good the guy was until you start looking at other boxers and they're like, they're not Floyd. Oh, they can't do this like Floyd. And they start comparing everybody to Floyd, and you don't realize, it's one of those things, right? But I do believe even the great Sugar Ray Robinson went through some of that, that controversy and stuff. In fact, the way how his career even ended was terrible. I didn't like how his career ended. Sugar Ray Robinson ended up, his career ended, or his life, should I say, ended in a hospital. And he really didn't have all that bunch of money that, he, started off with. And it's a very sad story for a man who gave his life to boxing like that. But I guess he wouldn't have it any other way. But the thing about Sugar Ray Robinson, was people didn't really truly, just like Floyd, just like any fighter actually, people didn't truly appreciate. I would say even just like Oscar De La Hoya, who's again Oscar De La Hoya is a gem of a fighter. I mean, you think about Shane Mosley, Oscar De La Hoya, you think of Pernell Whitaker, you think of even Roy Jones Jr. Today. People don't ever realize how much of a legend these guys were in their time, how great they were, how controversial they were, but at the same time, great they were. And what I mean by controversial, well, Oscar De La Hoya had one or two controversial fights. Roy Jones Jr. saw his share of controversial fights, and Pernell Whitaker. So controversial. There was always some kind of controversy in these people's lives. But again, Roy Jones Jr., phenomenal fighter. Pernell Whitaker, untouchable. I mean, Oscar De La Hoya, what a warrior, what a fighter, but what a boxer at the same time. The combination of different things. And we could talk about Sugar Ray Leonard, who's still a legend to this day, and keeps himself poised a certain way and carries himself in a certain manner. He's not in the grind anymore. He's kind of on the sides doing charity work and stuff. But you know, you got Roberto Duran. These are legends. Now, most people see these guys favorably. There's a lot of people, again, who will point out their flaws and point out this. But you know what? The truth be told, these are human beings. They're not perfect. They try to aspire to be better every day. They're not perfect people. So I never understood, this is the thing, a lot of people tell me, oh man, Anson, you're what you need, you're tearing down the greats of the past. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing to the present guys? You don't even realize how stupid you are right now because that's what you do into the present guys. And then when you look back in history, then you start talking favorably about them. But in the moment, you always have a criticism. You always have something negative to say about these guys because you're full of shit, because you can never accomplish what they do. And you don't even understand what they're doing, and you don't understand the process that they're going through. You just open your mouth and talk a lot of negativity into the atmosphere, which will not help you or anybody around you. And that's the thing I try to explain to people. I look at what they're doing to Canelo right now, how they're trying to tear down Canelo all the time. And these motherfuckers know. They know that Canelo's the dude. You know what I mean? They know he's pound for pound the best fighter in the world. They know, as a fact, that Canelo, all the shit talk aside, Canelo is the guy who probably would beat everybody. That's Charlo, Andre, Caleb Plant, David Benavidez. Why? This is common sense because he's got a lot more top tier experience than all those guys. So he's in a favorable position to beat all of them. Okay? Obviously, Canelo doesn't want to be dictated to by anyone. He wants to choose whatever and whoever he wants to fight and do whatever he wants to do. Hence, he's a free agent. And he's put himself in that position to be able to do that. So kudos to him. He learned a lot from Floyd. But But a lot of people tear down Canelo. They try to attack him. But we all know, all that bullshit aside, dude got skills. He got skills. All right? He got skills and he uses a particular formula of boxing that he learned from Floyd. Okay? He don't waste movement. He's not very excessive in his movement. And once he stays composed, you can see what he's in front of him. He a bad boy. He the baddest boy on the planet right now. Everybody want to talk about Wilder, Tyson Fury. All them guys popped up after Canelo. Canelo been a world champion longer than them guys. Think about what I'm saying. Okay? Canelo got really, and we ain't talking about normal championship experience. He got the top of the top of the top championship experience. Okay? He ain't no punk. He the real thing. And he's proven it time and time again. So that's why I talk about Canelo, because I know when I see something special and I talk about it. I don't care what anybody else say. Okay? I don't give a damn about race and all of that. And I think the guy who was talking about the best fighter in the world, I think it was Jamal Charlo. I think he even actually mentioned that. He said, this ain't about race. Canelo the best guy out there right now. He's right. Ain't nobody better than Canelo. Ain't nobody resume stack up to Canelo's resume. Nobody. Not even Pacquiao. The Pacquiao lost a number of fights. He fought all the best. You look at Pacquiao's resume, he fought all the best, and he got more world champions than Canelo by far. But don't get it twisted. He didn't maintain like Canelo. Canelo's been beating ass since he lost to Floyd. The only guy he's lost to is Floyd Mayweather. It was a learning experience, which he took to heart. And that's why he's damn difficult to beat now. Okay? And all I'm saying is, as much as Canelo is what he is, don't get it twisted. He's just a human being like you and I. We don't see him a lot. He talk a lot more Spanish, but he talk English too. But Canelo, he just a human being like you and I. So he will have flaws. He will have faults. He will make mistakes. And sometimes he don't put up the best performance that you would expect from a guy like that. We think these people are superhuman. They're supernatural or some shit like that. But they're not. They're human beings. It just so happens they're really, really, really good at what they do. That's why their name's in the mix. All right? I like Terrence Crawford, but he ain't no Canelo. He's not a Canelo. I know the black fraternity would be mad at me for saying that. I don't give a fuck what they say. That's the baddest boy right now. Canelo. All right? And don't get me wrong. I like Terrence Crawford. I like him. I like him a lot. I like his commitment to boxing. I like his dedication. But at the end of the day, he just don't got what Canelo got. And what do I mean by that? I mean, he just don't have the caliber of opposition that Canelo got. You know what I mean? And I know Canelo's Mexican, and Americans are going to rock with Americans, but at the end of the day, that Mexican is a bad boy. And I ain't going to lie. The WBC has been bending backwards to try and accommodate Canelo. Let's not make that a hidden secret here. Suleiman be doing all backflips and acrobatic jumps and rolls through hoops and shit to accommodate Canelo. We see the bullshit. But at the end of the day, that don't take away from Canelo's skill set that he has and what he's developing, his craft. You know what I mean? Anyways, man, this is what you need in the building. Just saying that we need to be more realistic about how we see the fighters, the great fighters that have been in our time. Appreciate them for what they bring, but understand their shortcomings as well. And stop being fucking haters, man. If you don't like a fighter, then don't keep their name in your mouth. Whether they're in the media or not, just don't talk about them. That's if you don't like a fighter, the best thing you could do is not give them publicity. Just keep their name out your mouth. So you don't put negativity into the atmosphere, man. And I know boxing is a competitive sport and it's fun to throw shade at one fighter or another. But at the end of the day, to just be completely tribal like that, not acknowledge the greatness of a fighter, don't want to give them no props whatsoever, is bullshit. Okay? You gotta give fighters their props when they do what they do. And if you ever seek to box or anything, learn a thing or two. And try and put it in your game, even if you're not competitive. You know what I mean? Anyways, this is what you need in the building. I spent almost an hour. I'm gonna get you guys later. I didn't show my face because it was nighttime, but it's going into day. So I'll catch you guys later, man. Peace.